Hi, my name is Mary, and this is my Behavior Management Social Skills Screencast Part 2. We will be reading a book called My Mouth is a Volcano. The skills we'll be teaching are how to be polite in conversation and distinguishing between when and when not to speak. The character count standard we will be teaching is respect, which entails using good manners, not bad language, tolerance of others, and being considerate of other people's feelings. This fits into the bottom tier of the three-tiered social skills instruction pyramid because we are targeting this lesson towards everyone. This is for the whole class to learn. The following are two examples of how the problem can negatively affect others, or the anticipatory set. 1. Do you ever feel like you have upset someone by talking when they were, or has anyone ever upset you by doing this? 2. I remember when I was growing up and my mom would yell at me for interrupting her. Has this ever happened to you? The objective of this lesson is that the student should understand when it is okay to input into the conversation and to be patient and not interrupt. I'm going to teach you how to have a well-mannered conversation. Two key terms from the lesson that I want the students to understand are 1. Erupt, to explode forcefully, and 2. Patience, the ability to wait. Next will be the reading of the book. My Mouth is a Volcano, written by Julia Cook, illustrated by Carrie Hartman. My name is Lewis. People say I erupt a lot. I don't think so. I have a lot to say, and all of my words are very important to me. When other people talk, words just pop into my head, then they slide down onto my tongue. My tummy starts to rumble, and then it starts to grumble. My words begin to wiggle, and then they do the jiggle. My tongue pushes all of my important words up against my teeth, and then words just explode out of my mouth. My mouth is a volcano. In class, my teacher says that when we want to say something, we are supposed to look at her, raise our hand, and wait until she calls on us. I tried that. After I waited patiently for what seemed like 62 years, my important words slid down from my head onto my tongue. Rumble, grumble. Teacher, I think we should have recess all day. I'm hungry too. Can we go to lunch now? My tummy starts to rumble, and then it started to grumble. My words began to wiggle, and then they did the jiggle. My tongue pushed all of my important words into my teeth, and my volcano erupted. My teacher was less than pleased. She erupted me right back. I know what you are saying is very important to you, Lewis, but since it's not an emergency, you'll have to wait until I call on you. It was my volcano's fault. At daycare, we were sitting on the rug, listening to Miss Polly read us a story about planting trees. All of a sudden, I thought about the time my grandpa and I planted 6 trees in his front yard. Hey, guys, once I planted zillions of trees with my grandpa. My important words slid down from my head onto my tongue, my tummy started to rumble, and then it started to grumble. My words began to wiggle, and then they did the jiggle. My tongue pushed all of my important words into my teeth, and my volcano erupted. I got a timeout. It was my volcano's fault. During dinner, Mom and Dad were talking about paying the bills. Then I thought about my friend Bill. Bill can blow a bubble inside of a bubble when he chews 2 pieces of bubble gum. Now that is really important. My important words about Bill slid down from my head onto my tongue. Hey, Mom, Bill can blow a bubble in a bubble with his gum. My tummy started to rumble, and then it started to grumble. My words began to wiggle, and then they did the jiggle. My tongue pushed all of my very important words into my teeth, and my volcano erupted. Lewis, my mom said, you interrupted again. If someone else is talking and you don't have an emergency, you have to wait for your turn. But Mom, my words, they slid down from my head onto my tongue, then my tummy starts to run. Lewis, you did it again. I got sent to my room. She said I was rude. It was my volcano's fault. The next day at school was my very important day. I had been waiting for about 126 weeks to be the student star of my class. This was my special moment. I got to share a poster with my class that had pictures of all my favorite things. I stood up in front of my class and began to tell them about the time I went fishing. Halfway through my story, Richard started to tell everyone about when he went deep-sea fishing in Mexico. His story must have been better than mine because everyone started to look at him. He was stealing my important words. "Richard," said my teacher, "you just interrupted Lewis. Please wait until he finished talking, and then he might call on you." I couldn't believe how rude that was of Richard. He erupted me. That really made me angry. After talking about my fishing trip, I started to explain the x-ray of my broken arm. Just as I was getting into the good part, Courtney started to tell the class about when she broke her leg. "Courtney," my teacher said, "you just erupted Lewis. Please wait until he is finished talking, and then he might call on you." I couldn't believe how rude that was of Courtney. She started talking right during my 15 minutes of fame. She ruined my important words. She almost stole my moment. When I got home, I told my mom about rude Richard and rude Courtney. "Now you know how we feel when you interrupt us," said my mom. I never thought about that. I just get so excited, and my words, they just pop into my head. Then they slide down onto my tummy starts to rumble, and then it starts to grumble. My words begin to wiggle, and then they do the jiggle. Then my tongue pushes all of my important words up against my teeth, and I erupt. Words just explode out of my mouth. My mouth is a volcano. "Maybe Richard and Courtney have volcanoes in their mouths too," my mom replied. I never thought about that. "Well, son, the next time your important words are pushed into your teeth by your tongue, bite down hard and don't let them out. Then take a deep breath and push your words out through your nose. Then when it is your turn to talk, take a deep breath and breathe them back into your mouth." "Will that work?" I asked. "Only if you make it work," said my mom. That night at the dinner table, my sister Sylvia was in the middle of one of her long girl stories. When my important words began to slide down from my head and my volcano started to do its thing, just as my tongue started to push my words out through my teeth, I bit down really hard. Then I breathed my words out through my nose. As soon as my sister finished talking, I took a deep breath and back in it went the words. I was amazed that they had just hung around outside my mouth and didn't float away. Then I told my story, and nobody got mad at me for erupting. After that, I never erupted again. Well, except for the time Bill's bubble gum got stuck in my hair. But that was a real emergency. This is the worksheet that the students will complete about the story. This will be done independently before group work. They need to answer the questions within a time frame of 10 to 15 minutes. This is to be handed out before checking for understanding. Checking for understanding. Before letting them work, make sure they understand by asking questions. For example, "What do you do to speak in class?" Or, "How should you add a thought to an active conversation? Should you interrupt?" Independent practice. Have the class split into groups and practice conversation skills. Observe each group for a few minutes each, or until everyone has tried to contribute. Send them home with a sheet for parents to say that they have been practicing. Reflection on learning. I hope that each student has learned the 2 new terms and can relate them to the story that we have read. They need to be able to converse in a mannerful way. I want them to be conscious of each other's feelings before they speak.